Have you ever wondered why people act the way they do? Why we chase what we can't have, or why we remember some things more vividly than others? Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of human psychology to uncover 10 mind-blowing facts that reveal how people really think. By the end of this video, you'll see your own mind and the people around you in a completely new light. So sit back, relax, and let's get inside the human brain. Fact number 1, the halo effect. Have you ever met someone who seemed so charming, attractive, or well-dressed that you automatically assumed they were also intelligent, kind, or trustworthy? That's the halo effect, a psychological shortcut that our brains use all the time without us even realizing it. The term halo effect comes from the idea of a halo around someone's head, like in old paintings of saints. Once we notice one good quality, that halo spreads to everything else we think about them. If someone looks confident, we assume they're competent. If they smile often, we assume they're friendly and honest. It's our brain trying to simplify complex social judgments, but it often leads us to the wrong conclusions. Here's a fascinating study. Psychologists asked people to rate the intelligence and personality of strangers based only on photos. The attractive faces were rated as more intelligent, more capable, and even more moral. Of course, physical appearance has nothing to do with those traits, but our brains automatically make those leaps. You see this everywhere. In the workplace, attractive or confident employees often get promoted faster. In school, teachers sometimes expect better performance from good-looking or well-behaved students. And, believe it or not, those students actually perform better simply because of the teacher's higher expectations. That's the halo effect in action. Perception shaping reality. It doesn't just work with people either. Brands use it constantly. If a company makes one great product, we assume all their products must be high quality. Think about Apple. When they released the iPhone, suddenly everyone expected their computers, watches, and even headphones to be flawless too. That's not logic, it's psychology. But here's where it gets tricky. The halo effect can also make us blind. We might ignore red flags in someone we admire or overlook flaws in a brand we trust. It can cause us to hire the wrong person, trust the wrong leader, or even fall for the wrong partner. So what can we do about it? The first step is awareness. When you find yourself instantly liking someone, pause and ask why. Is it because of their personality, or their presentation? Are you judging their abilities or your perception of them? Once you start noticing the halo effect, you'll see it everywhere, in ads, in interviews, in your relationships, even in politics. It's not about becoming cynical. It's about seeing clearly. The more aware you are of these mental shortcuts, the better decisions you'll make. And the more fairly you'll see the people around you. Fact number 2, the spotlight effect. Have you ever walked into a room and suddenly felt like every single person was staring at you? Maybe your shirt was a bit wrinkled, or you said something awkward earlier, and now you're convinced that everyone remembers it. The truth is, they don't. That feeling is called the spotlight effect, and it's one of the most common psychological illusions we all experience. The spotlight effect happens when we overestimate how much other people notice or care about what we do. It's our brain's way of exaggerating our importance in other people's minds. Psychologists call it egocentric bias. We are the center of our own world, so it's easy to assume we're the center of everyone else's too. Here's a classic experiment. Researchers at Cornell University asked students to wear an embarrassing t-shirt featuring Barry Manilow, the singer, and then walk into a room full of strangers. The students guessed that about half the people would notice the shirt. But when asked, only about 10% actually did. That's a huge difference between what we think people notice and what they actually do. And here's the funny thing. Everyone else in that room was probably worried about how they looked too. We're all living in our own spotlights, assuming everyone's watching. But in reality, most people are too busy worrying about themselves to notice us at all. The spotlight effect doesn't just make us self-conscious, it can also hold us back. We might avoid speaking up in a meeting, dancing at a party, or posting content online because we fear judgment. But the truth is, no one's watching as closely as we think. And even if they are, they'll forget in a few seconds, just like we forget the tiny mistakes others make. So next time you feel embarrassed about something small, a stumble, a stain, a misspoken word, remind yourself, the spotlight isn't on you. It's just your mind, shining a light where no one else is looking. Fact number 3, people remember stories, not facts. If you want people to remember what you say, tell a story, not a statistic. Our brains are wired for storytelling. It's been that way since the beginning of humanity, when we sat around campfires sharing lessons, fears, and dreams through stories, not PowerPoint slides. Scientists have found that when you hear a story, your brain lights up in multiple areas: sensory, emotional, and even motor regions. But when you hear raw data or bullet points, only the language center activates. That's why a single story can stay in your memory for years, while facts fade away in hours. Here's an example. Imagine hearing that over 1 million people lack clean water. That's sad but abstract. Now imagine hearing the story of one little girl who walks miles every day just to collect a single bucket of muddy water for her family. Suddenly it's real. It has emotion, humanity, and connection. Your brain cares because it can see it, feel it. Politicians, advertisers, teachers, and even scientists all use stories to make ideas stick. It's not manipulation, it's effective communication. The story gives meaning to the data. So if you're trying to make a point, maybe in a conversation, a presentation, or even online, remember, people won't remember what you said, but how you made them feel. Wrap your facts in emotion, in narrative, in human experience. That's how you make an idea unforgettable. Fact number 4, cognitive dissonance, the mental tug of war. We like to think we're consistent, that our actions match our beliefs. But when they don't, our brain starts to panic a little. That discomfort you feel when you do something that doesn't align with what you believe, that's called cognitive dissonance. Imagine this. You know smoking is bad for you, but you still smoke. Or you value honesty, but tell a small lie to avoid trouble. That uneasy feeling inside? That's dissonance, a clash between what you believe and what you do. Our brains don't like that conflict, so they find creative ways to make it go away. We justify, minimize, or change our beliefs to match our behavior. A smoker might say, well, my grandpa smoked and lived to 90. Someone who skips the gym might say, I'll start fresh Monday. We rationalize so we can feel at peace again. The fascinating part is how powerful this effect is. It can shape morals, politics, and even relationships. People will defend a decision long after realizing it was wrong, just because admitting the mistake would hurt their self-image. The cure isn't to avoid dissonance, but to recognize it. When you feel that inner tension, that mental tug of war, pause. Ask yourself, am I making excuses or making sense? That single question can bring your actions back in line with your values. And that's where real integrity lives. Fact number 5, we see what we expect to see. What if I told you that you don't actually see the world as it is? You see it as you expect it to be? That's the power of perceptual set, a mental filter that shapes how we interpret the world around us. Your brain takes millions of bits of sensory information every second, but it can't process all of it, so it picks and chooses based on what you expect, believe, or want to see. It's like wearing invisible glasses tinted by your assumptions. Ever had someone say something to you that sounded rude, but later realized they didn't mean it that way? That's your expectation interpreting tone and meaning. Or think of eyewitnesses in court. 2 people can watch the same event and describe it completely differently. Each one is convinced they're right, but they're really just filtering through different expectations. A famous example is the viral photo of the dress. Some saw it as blue and black, others as white and gold. Same picture, different brains. Different realities. Our minds fill in gaps, adjust lighting, and reinterpret based on experience, not accuracy. So next time you find yourself sure about something, ask, am I seeing it clearly or just through my own lens? Because sometimes the world doesn't change. Our perception does. Fact number 6, we're terrible at multitasking. We've all bragged about being great multitaskers. You know, answering emails while watching a show, texting while working, or scrolling social media during class. It feels productive, right? Like you're getting more done at once. But here's the truth, you're not. Research shows that human brains aren't built to multitask effectively. When you think you're doing 2 things at once, your brain isn't actually running them in parallel. It's switching rapidly between tasks. Every switch costs you focus, energy, and time. Psychologists call this context switching, and it comes with a hidden price. Your attention takes several seconds to reorient every time you switch, and those seconds add up. to lost productivity, higher stress, and more mistakes. One famous Stanford study compared self-described multitaskers to people who focused on one thing at a time. The multitaskers performed worse on every test. They had trouble filtering distractions, organizing information, and even remembering details. In other words, the people who believed they were good at multitasking were actually the worst at it. Here's a quick example. Ever tried texting while watching a movie? Later you realize you didn't really absorb either. That's your brain's attention budget getting split and drained. The secret to real productivity isn't doing more, it's doing one thing fully. When you focus on a single task, you enter what's known as the flow state, that mental zone where time disappears and performance peaks. So next time you're tempted to juggle tasks, pause. Close the extra tabs, put the phone face down, and give your brain permission to do one thing well. You'll finish faster, feel calmer, and actually remember what you did. Fact number 7. Negativity bias. Why bad news sticks? Imagine this. 10 people compliment your work, but one person criticizes it. Which comment do you remember the longest? If you're like most of us, it's the negative one. That's called the negativity bias, and it's built deep into our survival system. Thousands of years ago, paying attention to bad things, like a dangerous animal or poisonous plant, literally kept us alive. Ignoring good news wasn't risky. Ignoring bad news could be fatal. That wiring still exists, even though our modern threats are more like emails or opinions than predators. Today, the negativity bias affects everything: relationships, news, even self-esteem. Studies show that it takes about 5 positive interactions to balance out one negative one emotionally. That's how powerful this bias is. News outlets know this too. If it bleeds, it leads. Bad news captures attention faster than good news because it triggers our brain's alert system. Even in daily life, if a friend cancels plans, your brain might interpret it as rejection, even if they were just tired. But awareness is power. Once you recognize the negativity bias, you can challenge it. Start by noticing how quickly your mind focuses on what went wrong. Then balance it intentionally. Write down 3 things that went right. It sounds simple, but it retrains your brain to see both sides. We can't delete the negativity bias, it's part of being human, but we can manage it. Remember, bad moments are loud, but they're not the whole story. Fact number 8, we love what feels familiar. Ever noticed how a song you hated at first slowly becomes your favorite after hearing it a few times? That's the mere exposure effect, the idea that we tend to like things simply because we're familiar with them. Our brains are cautious by nature. The unknown can feel unsafe while the familiar feels comfortable. That's why repetition builds trust, not just in music, but in people, products, and ideas. Marketers have mastered this. You see the same logo, the same jingle, the same message over and over until it becomes part of your comfort zone. The first time you see an ad, you might ignore it. The 10th time, you start believing in it, without realizing why. The mere exposure effect also explains relationships. You're more likely to like someone you see regularly, a coworker, classmate, or neighbor, than a total stranger. Repeated exposure breeds connection. There's a flip side, though. Familiarity can also trap us. We may stay in habits, jobs, or relationships that feel safe simply because they're familiar, not because they're good for us. So while familiarity builds comfort, growth requires stepping beyond it. Enjoy the things you know, but don't let them stop you from exploring the new. Because everything you love now, every song, every friend, or was once unfamiliar too. Fact number 9, we mirror the people around us. Have you ever noticed that when you spend time with someone, you start talking like them, laughing like them, even adopting their gestures? That's not coincidence. That's the chameleon effect, and it's one of our most subtle social superpowers. Humans are wired to connect. Without even realizing it, we mirror the body language, tone, and expressions of the people we're with. It's our brain's way of building rapport, a silent signal that says, "I'm like you, we're on the same side." In one study, researchers found that waiters who subtly mimicked their customers' speech and posture received significantly bigger tips. Why? Because the customers felt understood and comfortable, even though they couldn't explain why. This effect doesn't just happen physically, it shapes our emotions too. Spend time with happy people and your mood lifts. Spend time with negative people and your energy drops. Our brains literally synchronize with those around us through mirror neurons, special cells that help us feel what others feel. So be mindful of who you spend time with, because you're always absorbing and reflecting energy, even silently. And next time you want to connect with someone new, whether it's in an interview, a date, or a conversation, listen closely, mirror lightly, and smile genuinely. People might not remember your words, but they'll remember how in sync they felt with you. Fact number 10. Our decisions are driven by emotion, not logic. We like to think we make decisions logically, weighing pros and cons, analyzing facts, thinking things through. But science says that's only half true. The other half, maybe the bigger half, comes from emotion. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio discovered this when studying patients whose emotional centers were damaged. They could think logically just fine, but they couldn't make simple decisions. They'd spend hours debating what to eat or what day to schedule an appointment. Without emotion, logic couldn't decide. That's because emotions are the signals that tell us what matters. They give weight to our choices. When you buy a product, choose a partner, or vote for someone, you might justify it logically afterward. But the real decision usually comes from how it feels. Marketers understand this perfectly. They don't just sell features, they sell feelings, comfort, excitement, belonging. That's why luxury brands show emotions, not specs. Even our gut feelings are just our brains processing emotional data faster than we can consciously explain. Sometimes intuition is intelligence, just wrapped in emotion. So no, emotions don't make you irrational. They make you human. The trick is to notice when emotion is in control and ask whether it's guiding you wisely or impulsively. The best decisions blend both, logic for direction, emotion for motivation. And there you have it, 10 powerful psychology facts that reveal how people really think. From invisible biases to emotional decision-making, every one of these quirks shapes our lives more than we realize. The more you understand these patterns, the better you'll understand yourself and the people around you. So next time someone acts strangely, pauses awkwardly, or changes their mind, remember, there's usually a psychological reason behind it. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the mind, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with someone curious. Because when you understand how people think, you start to see the world differently. Thanks for watching, and remember, awareness is the first step toward wisdom.